Democracy is the worst form of government except for all those that have been tried from time to time.
Welcome to Politics Reimagined. To create better political systems, we first need to understand what's already been tried. Throughout history, humanity has experimented with countless forms of government. Some succeeded, others failed spectacularly. By exploring these systems, their strengths and their flaws, we can learn what works and what doesn't, and how to reimagine politics. Governments can be complex, but a simple way to classify them is by identifying where their power comes from. Anarchy is no power. Autocracy is power from one person. Oligarchy is power from a small group. And democracy is power that is shared by many. These systems have shaped history in countless ways. Let's dive deeper into each one. Autocracy is one of the oldest forms of government. It developed because it was more efficient than anarchy, offering security and reducing internal conflicts. It started as despotism in ancient chiefdoms, city-states, and empires. For much of history, monarchy was the most common type of autocracy. In the 19th century, dictatorship emerged as a more frequent form of autocratic rule. In an absolute monarchy, a single ruler, typically a king or queen, holds complete and unchecked power over the state. The monarch's authority is often justified by tradition or divine right. The monarch makes laws, enforces them, controls the military, and oversees the country's administration without needing approval from elected officials or other governing bodies. While absolute monarchies can provide stability and decisive leadership, they often suppress freedoms and rely on the ruler's goodwill to avoid abuses of power. A dictatorship is a form of government where absolute power is concentrated in the hands of a single leader or a small group, often maintained through force, fear, and suppression of opposition. Unlike a monarchy, a dictator's authority is not inherited but seized, typically through revolution or manipulation of the political system. In a dictatorship, citizens have little or no say in decision-making, and freedoms like speech, press, and assembly are severely restricted. The government uses propaganda, surveillance, and secret police to control the population and silence dissent. While dictatorships can enforce order and make swift decisions, they often lead to widespread human rights abuses, corruption, and political instability. Oligarchy is a type of power structure where control is concentrated in the hands of a small group of people. These individuals may hold power based on characteristics like nobility, wealth, fame, education, or influence in corporate, religious, political, or military sectors. Historically, oligarchies are often seen as coercive systems, relying on public compliance or oppression to maintain control. Two of the most common forms of oligarchy are aristocracies and theocracies. Aristocracies are systems of government where power is held by a small privileged group, often made up of nobles, wealthy elites, or those considered the most qualified to lead. The idea behind an aristocracy is that the most educated or capable people make the best decisions for society. Historically, aristocracies have been linked to hereditary titles, with power passed down through families. While they can bring stability and long-term planning, they often exclude the majority of people from decision-making, creating inequality and resentment. Think of it as a rule of the few, where the elite class runs the show, sometimes wisely, but not always fairly. A theocracy is a type of government where religious leaders or institutions hold the highest authority, and the laws are based on religious teachings or beliefs. In a theocracy, the ruler might be seen as a divine figure or someone chosen by a higher power, and religious texts often serve as the foundation for the country's legal and moral framework. This system can create a strong sense of unity among people who share the same faith, but it often limits freedom of religion and personal choice for those with different beliefs. A modern example of a theocracy is Iran, where Islamic law guides governance, but also the Vatican City, which is led by the Pope and rooted in Catholic doctrine. Democracy is a form of government where power lies with the people. It is often associated with key freedoms and rights, including freedom of speech, religion, and assembly, the right to vote, protections for minorities, and guarantees of life, liberty, and property. These principles ensure the governments act with the consent of the governed and protect individual and collective freedoms. Democracies give people a voice and promote accountability, creating inclusive and stable societies. However, they can be slow, prone to misinformation, and risk majority rule overshadowing minority rights. Democracy can happen in two main ways: through direct democracy, where citizens vote directly on individual laws and policies, or representative democracy, where they elect leaders to make decisions on their behalf. Most modern democracies function as representative democracies, but they can take many forms. The United Kingdom, Sweden, and Japan are parliamentary monarchies. A parliamentary monarchy is a system of government where a monarch serves as the ceremonial head of state, while elected officials in a parliament hold actual governing power. The monarch's role is largely symbolic, representing national unity and tradition, with little or no involvement in day-to-day political decisions. The real authority lies with a prime minister, who leads the government and is chosen by the parliament, usually from the majority party or coalition. This system attempts to combine the stability and cultural heritage of a monarchy with the democratic processes of the parliamentary system. Germany, Italy, and India are all examples of parliamentary republics. In a parliamentary republic, the head of state, typically a president, has a largely ceremonial role, while the real governing power lies with a prime minister and the parliament. The prime minister is usually the leader of the majority party or coalition in the parliament and is responsible for running the government and making policy decisions. In this system, the parliament holds significant authority, including the ability to appoint and remove the prime minister. Unlike a parliamentary monarchy, all leadership is democratically chosen. Power rests with the prime minister and parliament, promoting accountability, but parliamentary republics can lack the cultural unity provided by a monarchy and may face instability if coalitions frequently collapse. France and Portugal are modern examples of a semi-presidential republic. Power is shared between a president and a prime minister, combining elements of presidential and parliamentary systems. The president, typically elected directly by the people, serves as the head of state with significant authority, such as overseeing foreign policy or defense. The prime minister, appointed by the president and approved by the parliament, is the head of government, responsible for domestic policies and day-to-day administration. This dual executive structure allows for a balance between strong leadership and responsiveness, but can sometimes lead to conflict if the president and prime minister come from opposing political parties, a situation known as cohabitation. The United States, Brazil, and Mexico are examples of a presidential republic. The president serves as both the head of state and the head of government, concentrating executive power in a single individual. The president is elected directly by the people, ensuring a clear mandate to lead, and operates independently from the legislature. This separation of power means that the president does not rely on parliamentary approval to govern, though checks and balances exist through the judiciary and legislature. The president has significant authority over domestic policies, foreign relations, and military decisions, but is accountable to the people and constrained by constitutional laws. This system provides strong executive leadership and clear lines of responsibility, though it can risk gridlock if the president and legislature are from opposing parties. China's government operates under a communist system, officially described as a socialist state led by the Communist Party of China, or the CPC. While it's referred to as a people's democracy, its structure is very different from democracies in the United States or Europe. Power is concentrated entirely in the CPC, with no significant opposition parties. Citizens can vote for local representatives in the people's congresses, but these are controlled by the party and higher-level leaders are chosen internally. The CPC claims its system is democratic because it represents the collective will of the people, focusing on economic equality and shared ownership over individual freedoms. The government prioritizes economic planning, stability, and long-term national goals, often limiting personal freedoms and suppressing dissent to maintain control. China's economy follows a socialist market model, blending state control of key industries with limited private business. While private companies exist, the government heavily regulates markets, and major industries remain under state ownership. Unlike representative democracies that emphasize free markets and individual rights, China's system focuses on collective progress, justifying restrictions as necessary for national stability and growth. Many countries blend different forms of government to create systems that suit their unique needs. For example, Canada is a constitutional monarchy because they have a monarch as a ceremonial head of state, a parliamentary democracy because they have elected officials who govern, and a federal system, which is a division of power between a central government and provincial governments. Most modern governments attempt to combine the best features of various political systems that have been tested throughout history, but the results continue to be mixed. In exploring the many forms of government, we've seen how societies throughout history have organized power. Sometimes it is concentrated in the hands of one, sometimes in the hands of a few, and sometimes power is distributed among many. Each system reflects the values and challenges of its time, offering lessons about what works, what doesn't, and why. As we reimagine politics for the future, understanding these models isn't just about knowing history. It's about using that knowledge to innovate, adapt, and build systems that serve people better. The question we face isn't just what kind of government we've had, it's what kind we'll create. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Politics Reimagined to join us on this journey of exploration and innovation. Together, let's turn the failures of today into the solutions of tomorrow.